as countries like Germany suspend aid funding. Canada's International Aid Minister Ahmed Hussein's office sent the CBC this statement. We are extremely concerned about the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian situation and the impact on civilians. We will continue to support civilians with life-saving humanitarian aid while ensuring that no money goes into the hands of Hamas. So, what are the biggest challenges facing aid organizations during this humanitarian crisis? Tommaso Della Longa is a senior spokesperson for the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thanks for having me.
I wonder, I know the situation in Gaza is fluid. I wonder if you can give us your sense of the humanitarian situation in that area right now.
Well, the humanitarian situation, I would say that is very, very complex. As IFRC, we are looking at this situation with great concern. You have to think about Gaza Strip, a very dense and populated area, probably the more dense populated area in the world, that already was enduring crisis and great humanitarian needs before the last escalation. And of course, in the last hours, these humanitarian needs are only growing.
With Israel blocking food, water, electricity going into the area, what is that going to do to the situation there, sir?
Well, this is, again, it's a great matter of concern. Blocking food and water, it's a huge problem for hundreds and thousands of people. And again, this is a situation that is overlapping other great crises, the Gaza Strip, and the people in Gaza Strip were already living and suffering in the last months and years. And of course, again, it is a great matter of concern for all of us. And we do hope that all the parties will find a way to avoid the suffering on civilians.
Well, what is your number one concern for the Gaza Strip at the moment?
Well, at this stage is what the Palestine Red Crescent colleagues are telling us, that there is not really a safe place where to stay. What we are seeing is there are bombardments, there are targets, and then we saw, unfortunately, that also our teams on the ground are suffering these bombardments. And of course, we call on all the parties to say that civilians infrastructure and healthcare workers and healthcare facilities must be protected and must be respected.
Israel has told people to get out because of the counteroffensive or the retaliation that is coming for the attacks conducted by Hamas, but there are reports that people are not being allowed to leave. Have your workers tried to get out of Gaza, and have they been able to? Have they been stopped? What's their situation?
Well, our first aiders are from Gaza. Palestine Red Crescent volunteers, as all the Red Cross Red Crescent volunteers in the world, are in every emergency because they are part of their local communities and they are trained to respond in every type of crisis. And this is exactly the case for our women and men of Palestine Red Crescent. Then, as you said, there is no way out for Gaza, from Gaza at the moment, as it was in the last years.
I know Red Cross and Red Crescent are non-political and they stay out of politics, but in the wake of these attacks, countries like Germany and Austria have suspended aid to Palestinian organizations. The European Union is reconsidering its aid. What impact do you think that will have should these aid sources dry up?
Of course, this is really concerning. I would say, our call to donors and partners worldwide is that probably now more than ever, people in Gaza, community in Gaza needs international support, and not just for these days, but for the months to come, because what we are saying, the large scale of the emergency will mean that for the months and years to come, people will need recovery efforts and support. So our call to donors is just to continue supporting Gaza and even more in the months and weeks and months to come.
Canada is not cutting off its aid. It says it will disperse aid through what it calls trusted partners like the International Red Cross and Red Crescent. But they want to make sure this money never ends up in the hands of Hamas or other groups like that. How do you ensure the money only goes to civilian aid and humanitarian causes?
Well, we need to make it clear, crystal clear to the public and to the people that are viewing us in this moment that the Red Cross Red Crescent has a high standard of accountability, and we are guided solely by our principles. And first of all is independence, and then of course neutrality and impartiality. So in Palestine, as everywhere in the world, the money is used through our trusted partner as the Palestine Red Crescent, but then under the umbrella of the International Federation of Red Cross Red Crescent that has these kind of standards and continue control on what is going on. So in Gaza, as in every part of the world, we can assure to donors and to the people that are watching us at the moment that the money will just be used for humanitarian purposes.
With the siege, as Israel calls it, and with the blockades that have been happening there for years now, how difficult is it? Can you even get aid into Gaza right now? Should you have supplies or medicines or resources that your volunteers in the area would need? Could you even get it to them?
At the moment, it's a no-go. I mean, we can see. I mean, we see also in the news how is the situation in Gaza now. The Gaza Strip is locked. I mean, the good news in the past is that we had the possibility to bring aid, and for instance, our volunteers, even today, they were distributing some of the stocks that were pre-positioned in Gaza for any possible emergency. But these stocks will finish together with fuel for electricity, together with food and water. So it really, I mean, there is a desperate call that in the next days will arrive from Gaza, where needs will grow in an enormous scale.
The cutting off of the essentials seems to be a precursor to what may be a ground invasion of the Gaza Strip by the Israeli Defense Forces. Certainly, if you listen to the prevailing wisdom of military experts on the region and listen to what Prime Minister Netanyahu has said, should that proceed, what are your biggest concerns for the population in the Gaza Strip?
Protection of civilians infrastructure, protection of humanitarian workers, protection of healthcare. Protection is the first concern. Of course, we are not entering in the political debate on decision, but then we are deeply concerned about human suffering. And what we are seeing these days, it's really worrisome for all of us.
What's your message for people who've been watching these events unfold, obviously outraged and horrified by the murders and the attacks committed by Hamas, but also worrying about what may happen to a non-Hamas population inside Gaza?
Well, we were all shocked when we saw the terrible, shocking images on Saturday and Sunday. But this doesn't mean that millions of people in Gaza need to pay the price. So the request, again, to all the parties is to spare civilians and to do the utmost to respect and protect civilians.
Do you expect that will happen based on the reaction to this? Based on the political response we've seen to the attacks and in terms of what Israel appears to be preparing?
Well, as a humanitarian, I used to be optimistic because otherwise I should have changed my work. So our call stay there. But then, of course, also the preparedness part and the support to the Palestinian Crescent teams will be there.
Tommaso Della Longa with the International Red Cross and Red Crescent, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.